I'm here today with Dr. Tim from Cosmetic Culture, and they're based in Penrith, Pyrmont and Lane Cove in Sydney. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to talk about body lift. It's one of the procedures that I'm passionate about. So can you just tell us a little bit about the body lift? Like, what actually is the body lift procedure?
Well, in a nutshell, a body lift is really just taking out a tyre, if you like, of tissue, which is skin and fat around the body. So you can either take a tyre that's very low on the body so that you're lifting up more of the buttock, or you can take a tyre a little bit higher up that's giving you a better waistline. So it's really taking a tyre of tissue right off the body and then reopposing the two edges of the skin and tissues.
Like the tree rib?
Yeah, it's like a tree.
All right. So who's this procedure good for? Like, who's the best candidate for it?
It's typically aimed for patients who've had bariatric surgery, whether they've had a gastric sleeve or whether they've had lap banding, or in patients who've actually been very, very disciplined and been really good with diet and exercise, and they've had a massive weight loss. So by definition, over 20 kilograms, and we have patients who've lost up to 70, 90 kilograms, so half their body weight. And so what they're generally left with is a lot of excess skin that drapes like an apron over their mons pubis, sometimes halfway down their knees, and it's pretty hard to get around like that.
So for the massive weight loss patients, is there any help with Medicare? Like, 'cause I know for a fact that it's one of my passions, the massive weight loss thing, because I am that person. But is there, like, I speak to women all day that have got bad infections under their skin's hanging over, so is there any help?
Yeah, Medicare at the moment, the item numbers are constantly evolving, and as you know, they've made it much more difficult now for women to have abdominoplasties or tummy tucks. So the current guidelines are that if the patient has intertrigo rashes underneath an apron, that also may affect the skin integrity, so they may lose further skin, either due to maceration or due to infection, that's been unrelieved with at least 3 months of medical treatment. If it affects activities of daily living, and the fact that the weight's been stable for about 6 months, then they may be eligible for an item number, Medicare item number at the moment.
And if they're eligible for an item number, that means they're covered by a certain portion of it?
Yeah, it depends whether they're self-funded or whether they're in a health fund, and what grade of health fund they're in and so forth. So, but they can get an estimate of the costings based on not only the item number but how long the procedure takes.
Right.
So the procedure varies,
how long does it take?
because the bigger you are, the more weight you've lost, then generally the longer the time it takes to actually take off that extra tissue. So for me, a body lift, because I do it pretty much all by myself, takes 6 hours, but in some instances it can take up to 9 hours to do.
Wow.
And we also do in other patients who we don't really do body lifts, but we do what's called paniculectomies. They are really big patients who can't exercise, or they're unable to have bariatric surgery because they're unfit for it. They may have health issues, they may die underneath the anaesthetic. And in those patients, what we do is we just amputate the apron. That can take a long time as well. So I had one patient where I took 36 kilograms off, just doing that alone.
Wow. I've actually seen some pictures of some of the work you've done. It's amazing. Yeah, wow. So how long is the patient in hospital for?
So the patient's usually around a week. Sometimes we've had patients who've got in a little bit earlier, about 5 days, but generally I'd say about a week before they go home.
All right. And is there any preparation, like before that would be, you know, like, because I know I just recently had surgery myself, and I took lots of vitamins before, and I recovered like that. So is there any preparation that?
A lot of patients who've had bariatric surgery can actually be nutritionally deficient or anemic. And so what we do in those cases, we either send them to the GP or we send them to a physician who, whether it's a hematologist or an endocrinologist, to make sure that all those, you know, their hormones, their iron levels are up to scratch, and that they have adequate healing capacity. So they might put them on multivitamins and so forth. So yeah, we do all that beforehand.
I'm a real advocate for not travelling overseas for surgery, any sort of surgery as far as I'm concerned. Can you tell us, especially with a body lift, like why you would, like, tell me about your aftercare basically, what you don't get if you travel, what we do get for aftercare in Australia?
Well,
for body lift specifically.
Well, body lifts is a big procedure, obviously. So one of the highest risks of body lifts is having a deep venous thrombosis and pulmonary embolism. So we take certain measures to stop that. For example, we have TED stockings on the patient, calf compressors until they're fully ambulant. We give them anticoagulants. We have the theatres relatively warm, and also get the patient ambulating the next day pretty much with a physiotherapist and so forth. We pay very close attention to all that. We get chest physio and so forth. But the way we deal with body lifts is that we keep a very close eye on them. So we do the operation, we see the patient during their hospital stay, and we also see them a week later. Generally, we see them weekly for their dressing changes, but I'll probably see them at 3 weeks in a little bit more detail, then at 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, year. And then the sort of, you know, they're part of your practice for a long time, and you've got to be on their back that they don't change their diet, they continue to exercise and look after themselves, because they've invested so much money and time. It's the time that's your biggest currency nowadays, not so much the money, that you really want to maintain for as long as possible.
And the effort to lose all the weight to get to that
Absolutely.
point in the first place. Yeah, right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today.
It's been a pleasure, Trish.
Lovely.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So bear in mind, if you're looking at having a procedure like this, like, it's a big thing. I've recently spoken to a lady who's had one, and her recovery after it was huge, and I can't even imagine what that would have been like overseas. So yeah, do your research, and if you want to know some more info, drop us an email at info@plasticsurgeryhub.com.au. Thank you.
Thank you.